Hello, my 3D animation and visual effects friends. We're so close to being done here. What we need to do is test out what we've got. If we go into the game with our character in the animation we've applied, we can go from idle to walk, and it looks good. Except we have some rough animation going here, and our jump looks a little static. It actually looks like we're running or walking when we jump. So we need to fix that. What we can do is we can create a cycle within our character animation blueprint. So if I go in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save or copy in my anagraph. I'm going to copy that play to walking, and then I'm going to right click and I'm going to go new state machine. And I'm going to select add new state machine. This new state machine is going to be a cycle that we can use to actually create a full-on animation group. I'm going to rename the state machine locomotion. You can name it whatever you want to, jump cycle, walk cycle, run cycle, whatever you want to name it. I like locomotion because it means walking. Plus I saw it in another tutorial and I thought it was cool. So again, I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to hit Control C just to make sure that I copied it. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to apply this into that locomotion. So as you can see here from Enter, I'm going to grab Add State. I'm going to change the state to Idle Walk. Once I have that idle walk, I'm going to situate this and open it up. And I'm going to see an output here. Well, we need an input. Let's paste that input that we just copied and make it an output, compile and save. And look at that. It applies my idle animation. If I go over and play around with the speed again, the speed reapplies. We're off to a good start here. I'm going to go back up to the carrots up top, or go up to our little breadcrumb trail. Click on locomotion and go back to the main locomotion. Now, before we did a jump cycle and it didn't look real good, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start a state machine or a new state, and I'm going to name that jump start. Then I'm going to add another state and I'm going to do a jump loop. Let me try that one more time. I'm going to add state and name this jump loop. That made it stick. I'm going to drag off of this, come back around. I'm going to add one more state, and I'm going to call this jump end. From this jump end, we're going to drag back to the idle walk. Now, essentially what we did was we just set up a state cycle pretty much of the jump. Now what we need to do is we need to apply our actual jumping animation to each one of these states. And then we're going to play around with the transition and decipher how it transitions in and out of this jump animation. So I'm going to go into each one of these states and apply the jump to it. And if I compile it, it's going to give me some errors saying that your transition is not set. So what I need to do is I need to go in and figure out how to transition from state to state to state. So if I go into the first transition, I'm going to grab the is falling and I'm going to say get is falling. And I'm going to tie it to my results. Now, if I click the button and my avatar is falling, it's going to start this jump cycle. Or if I hit the space bar, it will start the jump cycle. If I compile and save, one less error. Now I go over to the jump start, and from the jump start to the jump loop, what we're going to do is we're going to add a new node to this one we haven't used before. I'm going to search for time render. And what we're looking for is time rendering ratio. Now, what exactly this does, I'm not quite sure yet, but I'm getting better at this. And what this is going to do is it's going to pick the amount of time that we stay in this loop for the jump. So if we stay in that jump cycle, and it looks like I'm jumping for however long I stay in that loop in the act of jumping, I'm going to tie this into a float that is less than or equal to, and I'm going to set that to 0.1. And that's our transition from us jumping and staying in that loop to us ending the jump. Sorry, rephrase that from the start of the jump to the jump loop. I apologize. Now what we're going to do is the jump loop to the jump end. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to pull in the is falling. If I am falling, I'm looking for the not Boolean to negate this, and I tie that into the result. Once I have that set, again, I go up to the compile and save, Now I go into the last transition from the jump in. That's going to transition me back to walking. All I need for this one is a new node we haven't used before. I'm going to right click and I'm going to look for get relevant animation time. But this one, get relevant animation time remaining, and then I'm looking for the fraction. This is a transition from me landing and going back to either idle or walk. So I drag this off. I'm going to look for float. So if I go here, drag off of here, look for float, less than or equal to float. And drag that into the results. Again, I set this one to 0.1, and we should be good to go. And that's our transition time from our jump landing to our idle walk. Compile and save. Now, remember, each one of those animations, I turned off the looping so that it's just one action as you go through it. So if you go through the jump start, jump loop, and jump end, make sure you turn off the looping as I showed in previously. Once I have all this set, I can, again, compile and save. And I'm going to check out how all of these come together. So now what I can do is I can go back to my character. I can go to my character and clean up some stuff here that's going to help us make our transition a little bit better. So I select my character and I type in pawn, and I'm going to turn off the control rotation yaw. Then if I go down to my spring arm and leave that pawn in the search, I'm going to look for the pawn control. What I want to do here is I want to turn that on. It's kind of convenient that the pawn is controlled that way. Now if I go back over to the left hand side, I can go to the character movement. I want to get rid of pawn, and I want to go down to my walk cycle, and I want to change the speed of my walk cycle from 600 to 75. So if I look for my max walk speed, I change that from 600 to 75. Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to go back over to the left-hand side, make sure I have character movement selected. I'm going to go up to details, and I'm going to search for orient. And here what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix the orient movement, or the orientation of that character's movement. So when I go left, it's going to turn left. When I go right, it's going to turn right. Now I click compile and save. And let's go test and see if this all works. Save the board, push play, click on my player, and using WASD, I can move my character forward. I can hit the spacebar and jump. It all looks really good. And as I walk and hit objects, I can actually climb up those objects, and I can use my mouse to look around my avatar as I move. As you can see, everything looks a lot smoother and a lot cleaner with the actions. Go ahead and test out your avatar. Make sure everything's working properly. And then come back for the last video as we do some finishing touches to clean up our animation cycle.